All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast. The Avalanche complete this road trip in perfect fashion, a 5-1 victory over the Detroit Red Wings. So that makes it 4 in a row for the road, 5 in a row overall. Like we said before, the Avalanche are clicking. A lot to get to in this game, and we'll also look forward to tonight's game against Chicago and the rest of this week as well. Locked On Avalanche coming right at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. Follow us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow us over on our YouTube channel. Over on YouTube, hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live. And why not subscribe to our subtext as well, where you can talk one-on-one with Mr. Shaggy and myself. So, all right, we'll get to our sound check a little bit later, and as the game against Chicago, which you have to be feeling good about going into that game. Why? Because the Avalanche just had maybe their best road trip in quite some time as they finish off all 4 games with a 5-1 win over Detroit. Got off to a little bit of a slow start in this one in the first. But once they picked things up, it was just, it was almost like the 1980s Olympic team, where like the second to last game, the game that everybody remembers, the against the USSR, and they beat that game, and then the final game is more like a footnote.
Yeah,
and it's like once you got over like the Canadian games. You just kind of felt really good going into Detroit that they were going to take this thing. And even though they got off to a slow start, they just kicked it into high gear. And that was all she wrote.
Yeah, it was a slow start, but there were little periods in especially the passing that things looked really crisp. Like the taser laser to start the game off. That was just beautiful.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of precise precision passing. And then things got muddied up. And it was farther on in the game, especially in that second period. I mean, the Avs eventually went on to put up 2 in the second, 2 in the third. And you could tell there was this separation of the Avalanche started clicking and Detroit started realizing we have nothing again to stop this Avalanche team. Like it was that Mikko Rantanen goal to top everything off at the end. There were 3 Red Wings chasing Nathan Mackinnon. Like,
it's kind of the norm right now.
Yeah, it was puck chasing at its finest, and it was one of those. Last year we talked to Ville Husso a lot.
Yeah,
and seeing what the Avalanche did to Ville Husso, it's just a really good breakdown of how the Avalanche kind of looked a month ago when everything was going wrong, and seeing a team that the Avalanche just picked apart. They didn't blow them out like Montreal. They picked them apart and just kept doing what they were doing, believed in what they were doing, and it eventually paid dividends.
Yeah, I just go back to what we have been saying. Like it's almost like they found themselves on this road trip.
Yeah.
And, we just use the term like this team is just clicking right now. I didn't have any like massive concern after that first, not only because like the score was tied, right? Because I think Chicago got one back in that first. Yeah, it was 1-1. And I wasn't seeing it like, oh no, like even though they didn't play all that well in the first, they had just come off a back, like they're playing 3 games in 4 days.
Yeah.
And you've had a lot of travel, but you feel good about how you're playing. So I didn't have concern about how that game was gonna like continue to progress. And I think that's where we are with the Avs right now. They're a confident team. It's not like you have like individual players who are confident. You have that. But as a collective,
yeah,
like you are feeling really good about how you are playing, which is, we've said it before. I don't think they care specifically where they finish in the standings. They just want to keep what's going on right now, continuing into the playoffs. But you have those guys that are playing, like, individually playing well. You said 3 guys are chasing Nathan MacKinnon around. Nathan MacKinnon, I know he's a superstar in this league, and I know, and I retweeted something that was on the NHL Network, and how they were talking about, like, you got Connor McDavid, who's number 2. And the conversation, like, started, I think it was Jackie Redmond who threw it out there. Is like, yeah, Nathan MacKinnon. And I think it was EJ Raddick who was on there, said, like, Nathan MacKinnon, I agree with that. And then you had Kevin Weeks say, I'm going to go with, the same team, different guy. And he picked Cale Makar. And I just bring that up to say, like, if Nathan, I want to, like, focus on the Nathan MacKinnon part, because I kind of just feel like if he didn't miss a ton of games, but the way he's playing right now, he is as confident as I've ever seen him. And not that he's never been confident in the past. Clearly he has been, but he has the confidence now of, like, if I need to take a game over, I can absolutely do that now. And nobody is going to stop me.
And I think after winning the cup, Nathan MacKinnon's kind of switched into this other gear, because you asked me, I can't remember who asked in the mailbag segment we had a couple weeks ago, will Mikko and or Nathan MacKinnon hit 100 points this year? And of course I said no at the time, because injuries were happening all the time. Still are. But I didn't anticipate Nathan MacKinnon hitting this gear. Nathan MacKinnon he's got the Stanley Cup. He's crossed that off the list.
Sure.
Now he could do these things with his game that he doesn't. It's not that compelling. Like, I got to get the cup. I got to get the cup.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, that's the drive, but now he can finally go chase that 100-point season. Let me go get these little accolades. Let me turn it up a notch, because I've proven I'm the caliber player that can win a Stanley Cup. So I have separation on Connor McDavid in that regard. Now I could go start cleaning up on all these other categories. And you could see it in the way he plays. It's not just Nathan MacKinnon doing Nathan MacKinnon things. He's got this look in his eye, like absolute confidence, like, I can do this. And he is precise and like a surgeon when it comes to how he's performing. And yes, Cale Makar is also reaching those, like, when Weeksy brought that up, I can agree with that. But Nathan MacKinnon is just as hot as they come.
It's crazy. It's almost like, and I'm not in his head, obviously, but, like, when you succeeded and you, like you said, you got that championship, you're not as afraid to maybe go out and make a mistake or something like that. But I mean, he's made a ton of them. But you don't have people kind of breathing down your necks, like, you have to stop doing that. That's hurting your team. He doesn't hurt the team. He won a championship with the team. Now he can, like, take some chances, and, and I just feel like he's kind of playing more free. And that's a dangerous thing for the rest of the league, because he doesn't have to worry, like, oh, if I screw this up, I'm still going to have that monkey in my back. Like, does this play prevent us from winning the Stanley Cup? He's won the Stanley Cup. Now it's just how many can he win before his career is over. But I just love the way that he's playing right now. I love how this team is playing right now. I think, we'll get into the stats for next segment. But what was because the shots on goal was pretty. 16-6 in the first. So as a team, like, you see them, all right, like, let's regroup in the first intermission, and then they held them to 8 in the second, and then Detroit had 10 in the third. But you see the adjustments being made. A lot of it was on defense, because all of those concerns we had earlier in the year, maybe halfway through the year, of, like, Avalanche really aren't scoring a lot. They've got their scoring touch back.
Yes.
So now, like, fine, like, all, like, you've had these moments where there's, like, pockets of things that aren't working for the Avalanche. If it was the defense was okay, then they weren't scoring a lot of goals. If they were scoring a lot of goals, they were giving up a lot of goals with the goal. And now it seems like the focus has been on defense. And with that Ottawa game, they let them come back. But I thought they played a good defensive game in that game too. Not their best, but it was a better one. But I just feel like everything is coming together perfectly for the Avalanche right now. And the defense is looking good as well.
And like when you mentioned earlier about not being worried after that first period, I had that same moment when I was ticking down the final seconds of that first period. I look up at the scoreboard and I see it's 16-6. And that goal that Georgiev led up to the Red Wings. It was not the greatest looking goal. And you're like,
Right.
great. But then you had this confidence going into the locker room and coming into the second, Georgiev stood on his head. He did exactly what you're supposed to do. And you said the defense is shoring up. So is Georgiev. It's one of those, the defense starts playing better, confidence, it spreads. And this whole team starts believing in it. And now you have that confidence that we talked about ad nauseum last year. And at certain times in the season, like you never feel like the Avalanche are out of it again.
Right. Exactly. And that's, you had that confidence in the game against Detroit. We are the better team, and now we can show it and we'll prove it. We'll get to the game against Chicago because we can't be overconfident.
No.
Cannot be overconfident, especially in this league. But we'll talk about that and the game against Chicago. But we'll get to stats and a little bit more with this game as well. But first, we are going to hear from Athletic Greens. And as you start getting up there in age, like I am, Kyle, not so much, a little bit. You're behind, but
I've lived a lot of life, Chris.
You start feeling you need some help with your gut health and everything that's kind of like important to you, including your nervous system and your immune system. So why not jump on the Athletic Green One bandwagon? And what is it? It's one delicious scoop of AG1 in a glass of water, and you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, and probiotics to help you start your day right. And the special blend of ingredients supports everything that I was just mentioning: the gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, your recovery, your focus, and yes, even the aging. Everything that is important to you and its health, its lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy free, or gluten free. And it contains less than 1 gram of sugar. There's no GMOs, so there's no nasty chemical taste or artificial anything. And it costs you less than $3 a day, and you're investing in your health. So it's cheaper than your cold brew or coffee habit, and you're getting all of the different supplements in one nutritional insurance. So right now it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with a convenient daily nutrition. And it's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day, and that is it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Once again, it's athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, sir. So kind of back to this game against Detroit. We'll dive into kind of like the the basic stats here. Avs, outshot by the Red Wings 34-23. With the exception of the first, though, didn't really feel like Detroit was peppering Georgiev with all like these dangerous shots. They really,
it felt like desperation.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was just trying to get shots on goal to see what happens, and that's fine. That's kind of what you want to do. But the Avs, I thought, did well, clamping down, not letting really good or opportunities in terms of like rebounding come back Detroit's way or anything like that. I just thought it was another good game plan. Make them shoot from the outside, clean up, and just go about your business. It's so weird looking at that number to me because it just doesn't seem like it was that far apart. In that, it didn't seem like the Red Wings had 11 more shots on goals than the Avalanche did.
It's because that second period, really, where the Avalanche continued with their game plan because they believed in it more than Detroit, going in and going toe-to-toe against each other, being tied at the end of 1. It's one of those that going into the locker room, we got to keep this up. We got to keep going. Detroit felt like the only way to stop the Avalanche is to kind of get in their heads and make them feel overwhelmed. And it became the other way around. Colorado just really kept doing what they did from the get-go and overpowered them, even though the shots and a couple other stats don't favor the Avs. But honestly, it was all Avalanche from beginning to end.
It's so odd. Like if you were just to look at this like stat sheet, someone who didn't watch the game and they just look at that like, wow, like I'm surprised this was 5-1 in favor of, the Avalanche, because shots on goal, they were less. Face-offs, I mean,
Yeah.
all Red Wings, 63% to 37%. The Avs were 1 for 3 on the power play, including a shorthanded goal by Lars Eller. And that's go ahead.
The wackiest goal. I'm telling you,
Yeah,
Lars
man, like,
Eller,
I don't know.
he is getting good at these wacky goals.
Bizarre.
The little tap in from the other night and this spinner-Rooney trick shot. I don't know what that was, but that going in, it goes back to our previous point of the stats being out of whack. If Detroit didn't feel overwhelmed, Husso put up a good game and he was doing really good with the saves, but the defense was so all over the place, being overwhelmed by the Avalanche. They left him out to dry for all 5 of those goals.
I think this just shows you that why, like, how, remember we were saying against Ottawa, even like the Avs were up, there was 5-2, but you could see the skill there in Ottawa, and they came back and they made a game of it. And Detroit is in that crop with Ottawa of those teams like kind of on the verge. But just based on these 2 games, and that's maybe a horrible thing to do because you have a whole season to go on, but just based on these 2 games, like where those 2 teams are at this point in the season, kind of going in opposite directions. Detroit is falling, and I thought they were going to have a really good second half. I really did, because I like their team. They're a young team, obviously. They will get there, but the difference in the being down and needing to push to try to get back into the game, Ottawa had it. Detroit really didn't. And I don't know if Detroit just gave up, but you can see the difference in those 2 teams, and you can see the Grand Canyon of a difference between the Avalanche and a team like Detroit right now. They're still learning how to win, and when you're down, how to play when you're down. It's night and day, really.
And you can walk back the steps and see the difference in Ottawa and Detroit with how they handled the deadline. One team traded in veteran talent, one team traded out veteran talent, and that team that you saw Saturday, they're missing some leadership there. And you could see that by everybody swimming around.
Yeah, I like some of the players that they have. Dylan Larkin's a great captain. He's great. And then you have it like Mo Seider. Everybody was on him last year. Jumping on the bandwagon, like the Mo Seider bandwagon, and rookie of the year and all that stuff. Like, he's going to be a very good player. He's kind of taken a little bit of a step back this year, kind of like the sophomore slump, if you want to call it. So I think you have to get over all of that stuff for them, and they're as young as they are. I think people put a little bit too much pressure on them to really, be a team to take that next big jump. And like a lot of people are putting them in the playoffs. Like they've been out of the playoffs for too long. They've made all these moves in previous years and drafted well. Now's their time. And sometimes that happens, but sometimes it takes, like, look at the blueprint that, a team like the Devils did.
Yeah.
The Devils drafted well, made some good moves. And now after a few years, they're finally hitting their stride. So I think people put a little bit too much emphasis that Detroit could do that now. And the team that I saw that played just against the Avalanche, man, like, nope. I was wrong on them. And I was one of those people that were putting them into the playoffs. Like, not in the top 3. I was putting them in a wild card spot at the beginning of the year. And I was a little bit let down by kind of what I saw there, because they have talent. Clearly, They have talent. They just need, now it's the experience that they need.
Yep.
Because it's just odd that we played those 2 teams back to back, and you saw one team who's kind of like on the way up, and Detroit, who will get there eventually, but it's almost like they're phoning it in already this year. I was a little bit surprised.
And it's one of those that you see what you have. You have great pieces, but you don't have a great team. And that's where Detroit is right now. And it's one of those that it could be a quiet process, and they approach it in the free agency, because, hey, Colorado's got free agents. Who knows who's going to be wearing the sweater next year? They might also be in Detroit, because, there's some guys on the bench that know Colorado really well.
Yeah.
So it would make sense that they start attacking in the free agency and a completely different team next year.
Yeah. And they had a brand new coach this year.
Yeah.
So, sometimes that takes a little bit of adjustment period, obviously. So look at what the Avalanche went through. First year, Jared Bednar. That's been well documented. And the following year, they were in the playoffs. So there's something there for Detroit. I just thought it was going to be a little bit better of an overall season, but it doesn't look like it's going that way right now.
Yeah, the pizza's not done yet. The crust is still gooey, but something's cooking in Little Caesars Arena, but it's not done yet.
And I do want to bring up before we take another quick break is the numbers as far as time on ice look a little bit better, and you were rolling lines a little bit easier, especially in that third. But you did have Alex Newhook, kind of on that bottom line again with Galchenyuk and Nieto. He did get 10 minutes this time around. Talking about Alex Newhook, Galchenyuk had the lowest. He had 7:39. If the Avs keep playing this way, is there any way Alex Newhook gets out of that? I don't even want to know if it's the doghouse. I don't want to say it's the doghouse, but is there any way he gets out of that fourth line spot if they keep playing that the way that they're playing? And in some weird way, I don't want to say it's like a demotion to him. Clearly it is. But if he's going to be on that fourth line and play better on a fourth line than him pressing when he's on a third or sometimes even a second, why bring him up right now?
It also works two ways. We just talked about unrestricted free agents. This is not a place you want to be. You are given opportunities to be 2C, and you have worked your way down to a 10-minute shift after getting 5 minutes the other night on a team that's rolling. If you're not contributing to this effort, you can contribute elsewhere.
I don't like. I don't think that's going to happen.
It's in Newey's mind right now, though.
I mean, I'm sure that they're talking to him and letting him know what the game plan is for right now. I'm not saying they're getting ahead of themselves and saying for the rest of the year, but I'm sure they talk to him and let him know like what they're going to do. Like, hey, you're going to center the fourth line right now. And, we're not going to send you to the AHL. That's not where we're at with him right now. But I think they have to have confidence that like, okay, you're going to be centering the fourth line. You need to be the best guy on that line. You have to be. Because they're not going to give up on him. They're not going to throw in the towel with him. He's 21 still. He just turned 22 maybe. And he's restricted unless they want to trade his rights, which I don't think they're going to do. I think they're going to work with him and give him the rest of the, this next contract, which now they're not going to, they probably are going to have to pay an arm and a leg for him. So it kind of works in their favor in terms of the cap.
That's what
I know a lot of people want to throw in the towel on him, but I'm not there yet. He's still young and he's still learning. He's still growing.
I wasn't meaning as in the Avalanche are giving up on him, but you mentioned confidence a couple times. Once the checkbook comes out, we'll see who's more confident and if there is agreement on confidence, because numbers can matter.
Yeah. Yep. Because what was he? He didn't have anything. Only one shot on goal. Right now, he's like the energy line. Really, that's what he's on right now is to bring the energy and just don't let anything get behind you right now.
Yep. And
I think he's doing that okay. So, all right, let's hear from Built Bar, and then we'll get into this game tonight against Chicago. But the Built March Madness bracket is here, and we know that you have a favorite Built Bar or a Built Bar Puff. And now is your time to make it count. So go to builtmarchmadness.com to vote for your favorite. And I remember doing this last year, and my pick did win last year, Mr. Sullivan. That was the coconut brownie bar. That one is in the mix again this year. And if you go to builtmarchmadness.com, you will see how they structured this for every matchup, at least in the first round, is a puff bar versus a regular Built Bar. So for people who don't like the puff bars, they're not going to vote for the puff bars. People who love the puff bars are probably going puff. Where are you going with this, sir? Because, I know you have your favorites, and so do I.
I definitely in this round of 16, this opening round,
Yeah.
I have pushed every puff through.
You have?
I have.
Really? Okay.
Every puff is
There's
going through.
some good matchups here. You have the banana cream pie puff against the peanut butter brownie bar. I like the mint matchup here. You have a mint brownie puff versus the mint brownie bar.
Yeah.
And the mint brownie puff is a little bit newer.
Yes,
So
it is.
that's going to be that's going to be one to watch. The mint brownie bar has a young up and coming superstar on their team, which I've heard. That could be tough.
I got that banana cream pie puff going all the way, baby.
Do you really? All right. The one that I have not tried is the maple donut puff.
That does sound really good.
I got to get my hands on that one too. So, I lost it. Here we go. Sorry. The ad read just went away because I was too concerned with who I'm going to vote for. So when you vote on your favorite bar or puff, you'll be entered into a drawing where 50 lucky Locked On listeners will get a free box of Built. And not only that, but Locked On fans will win one Locked On fan, will win a 12-month subscription to Built to have Built's best bars or puffs delivered monthly straight to your door. So run to builtmarchmadness.com right now to vote for your favorite bar or puff and pick up a box while you are there. And you can vote every day in March. So hop in and support your pick.
12
All right.
Wow.
So, yeah, right. So the Avs back at it. I want to bring up their schedule here. Back at it tonight against Chicago. And this is where we were, saying, the Avs have the easiest schedule to really kind of finish out the season. And right now they are taking advantage of it. And, a game like this, I don't want to call it a trap game. I don't really like that phrasing. I don't feel like professional athletes really look at things as like a trap game.
Come on, Akbar.
I like to know that professional athletes go out there and give it their like 100% all, especially against the team that they know they should beat. Why would you play down to that level when you're on a 5-game winning streak? You have all of these reasons. You're not in first place. You have all of these reasons why you should not let down. Why would they? You also lost to this team the last time you played them. They beat Boston. So, there's so many reasons why you would not call this a trap game. And I know if they do lose this game, people will say that. I don't buy it. I don't buy the whole trap thing all that much. But having said that, you have to come out and continue how you've been playing. You can't get cocky. You can't get overly confident. Go out, play how you've been playing. Don't force the issue, and you're better than this team, and you really should be coming out on top on this.
Because you mentioned we have the easiest schedule, one of the easiest schedules the rest of the way out. This is garbage time for a lot of these teams. Chicago, garbage. They need something to play for. They need something to hang on the bulletin board for next year. We did this. You're going to get the best out of everyone.
Right.
Pittsburgh, it's coming up after the Chicago game. They need a win like this. They really need this win. Arizona, same thing. Chicago beat Colorado the last time these two teams played. Chicago is a weird anomaly of a team.
Yeah.
And you must keep this pressure going, because if you hit a bump in the road against Chicago, it can make the rest of the week a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, because you got what would you say? Pittsburgh? Yeah, Pittsburgh on Wednesday. All three are home, by the way. So you had a 4-game road trip, which I believe, didn't we say when we were going over the March schedule, like that road trip is going to be a big determinant on where things stand, and look what's happening right now for the Avs. Yep. So that 4-game road trip, you're back home this whole week. So you got some nice home cooking for the week. So you got Chicago Monday, Pittsburgh Wednesday, and the Coyotes on Friday. And you actually have it's not a back-to-back. It's a home and home with a day in between off with them. Then you go to Arizona next week, and then you do have a back-to-back because you're playing the very next day against Anaheim. So things are in your favor. Yeah, I mean, you want to win this one because Pittsburgh's a good team. They're an up and down team, but these games you want to just stake your claim early on. Don't let them hang around. You were saying you were bringing up the stats, and Nathan Mackinnon is do you have that in front of you? Nathan McKinnon is leading the Avs obviously with 88 points. Go ahead. What was
Nathan
it?
Mackinnon, 88 points. The leader for the Chicago Blackhawks would be one Taylor Radish
Come on.
with 33 points.
Come on now.
That's 55-point differential between the two.
Wow. So
And
McKinnon, wow.
Mikko has 46 goals. Taylor Radish has 20. There is a discrepancy here.
Right. There's
like we said the week before the road trip, we're done making excuses for losses. No excuse for a loss against Chicago. Zero.
Yeah.
If they lose this game, it's because Colorado lost this game.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not because Chicago can outplay you. So I don't know, and if people are sitting there saying, like, what would you call the Boston loss to Chicago? I don't know. That's just
how
one
many
of those
times has
fluky
Boston
things that
lost?
Yeah, that's one of those fluky things that happen every once in a blue moon, and it happened. So, I just don't, like I said, I don't like putting the trap tag on things, but I think the Avalanche are flying right now, and they are going to want to hang a 6 or 7 on this, without a doubt. So, all right, let's get to our sound check and then wrap this thing up. Kyle and I will pick 2 songs that we feel best summarize the most recent game. Put these songs up on a playlist over on Spotify, which you can follow. Just search for LOA Soundcheck. This is volume number 2. So what do you got for this one, sir? Avalanche versus the Red Wings.
Love them or hate them. I mean, they're classic. This is a song from Kiss.
Hate them, by the way, but go ahead.
I love them for the novelty.
Well, that's all they are, really, to me.
Detroit Rock City. It's the equivalent of going like where I came from in Alabama and beating us and then just playing Sweet Home Alabama as you leave.
Yeah.
You're just kind of rubbing their nose in it just a little bit. And that's what
it
is.
I mean, once I grew up and that novelty wore off, I was like, what are Kiss? Like, what is, like, I don't get it.
I'm Kiss Army, baby.
Yeah, but they still do have some like good songs that you like, and that is definitely one of them.
Yeah,
I'll give you that all day. That is a good, just rock song. I will absolutely admit that one. They don't have many of them in my eyes, but that is one of them.
Yeah, it was early. That's it.
That was like their 3rd or 4th album, I think.
Destroyer.
Yeah, that was before they went makeup free, which people are like, put the makeup back on,
please.
Yeah. For me, I'm gonna go. I went kind of the era too, like the 70s era, and kind of focused on the road that Avalanche were on. And so I went Deep Purple and Highway Star. There was a number of road songs I could have went with, but those solos on Highway Star, they never get old, and they're so technical. And it's one of those things where it's like, how do you write this, and how do you put it down, and how do you continue to play it and mistake free? It's just amazing music, and it's a perfect road song, and it's a perfect, like, in your car, just be careful when you're listening to this, because you might look down and you're going 115 miles an hour. That
intro is one of my favorites of all time. Just the growling vocals that just come in. One of my favorites.
There was another song that I put on here, the Crazy Train. Like, that intro is great. This rivals that, in my opinion. You're 100% right. It's one of the best intros. It just gets you going. So that's going to be it. That's going to be our sound checks for those. So head over to Spotify and follow it, and we'll come out with 2 more after tonight's game against Detroit. So
the Chicago game.
Or Chicago. I'm sorry, I said Detroit. Yeah, Chicago.
I've already got a couple in mind. They just gotta come on.
They gotta come through with it. So yeah. All right, we'll be back to talk about that Chicago game tomorrow. But until then, that's going to wrap it up for today. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. And we'll be back tomorrow. So he is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli, and this is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. Enjoy the game.